Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. There was one piece of news in college basketball. We'll keep the basketball stories together, then we'll get to football. There is one piece of basketball news that I thought was at least worth discussing. It's not a big, oh my God, this is the biggest story ever, but it's an interesting story, especially in June. And I think it speaks to something much bigger that maybe nobody else is really going to talk about. And it was scheduling news that we got involving John Calipari and the Arkansas Razorbacks on Thursday afternoon. There had been reports. My buddy Jackson Collier from, I believe, Hogbeat, I believe is the website. Good friend of mine. He's a great reporter. He had put out a day or two ago that there was talks of Arkansas trying to schedule a Big Ten team. And Arkansas' schedule is starting to come together. We found out last week that they're playing Miami in the ACC-SEC Challenge. Think they could have gotten a better opponent, but that's neither here nor there. And also found out that they're going to play Michigan at Madison Square Garden in the Jimmy V Classic. But on Thursday, like I said, my buddy Jackson Collier had reported they're going to play a Big Ten team. And we got word from Illinois AD Josh Whitman that Arkansas and Illinois will play on Thanksgiving Day in Kansas City. Now, if this was just about a random one-off neutral site game, I don't think I'd be talking about it. But they're playing in Kansas City on Thanksgiving Day. How about this? They're playing on CBS, a nationally broadcast, what do you call it? The traditional non-cable. And they're doing it after the Lions-Bears game on Thanksgiving Day. And so what this says to me, it's going to be a really good game. We're going to talk about that. But you know what it also says? It says the Calipari brand is strong and well. And bluntly, I don't think this game gets scheduled, certainly not on CBS, if it isn't for the presence of John Calipari. Now, in terms of the game, listen, we don't need to start, we did this with college football the other day. We looked at the week 1, week 2, week 3, week 5 lines, whatever. And what did I say? I'm not going to overanalyze Ohio State, Michigan football here in June when the game's not being played till November. This one is also not being played till November. So I'm not going to oversell. It's going to be the game of the year. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. But what it will be, it should be a very good game between two, what I believe will be top 20 or so teams going into the season. Arkansas, we've talked about a lot. They've done a great job. You can criticize Cal for whatever. He has put together a heck of a 9-man scholarship roster. DJ Wagner, I think, is going to be very improved. John L. Davis, Jonas Adu. We don't have to go through the whole roster. But really good, really balanced. They only have 9. They got to stay healthy. We know that. But that, to me, is on paper as good as any team in the SEC. I would argue Illinois is actually probably as good as anybody on paper in the Big Ten. Illinois returns a couple key pieces from that Elite Eight team. We know Coleman Hawkins has gone to Kansas State. We know Terrence Shannon Jr. is going to be in the NBA. But at the same time, we also know they do bring back a couple key pieces, Ty Rodgers, etc. And they added a lot of pieces that I like. I think Kylan Boswell from Arizona returning to Illinois will be good. It'll be good for his career. I do like Trey White, who's kind of bounced around, started at USC, played at Louisville last year. Like some of the other transfers as well, Jake Davis, the shooter from Mercer, on and on. And so 1, 2 really good teams. I think the environment will be great. I did the drive this year from Fayetteville to Kansas City. It's about Arkansas fans, you know better, but about a 3.5, 4-hour drive, very doable. Because remember, I did Arkansas, Duke, and then I did Kansas and UConn on over the course of 3 nights. So I went to Arkansas, Duke, drove up to Kansas City. The next night I went to Kansas versus UConn. University of Kansas is about 30 or so minutes from Kansas City. So it's an easy drive. Illinois fans travel great. So I think it'll be a great atmosphere. But why I wanted to talk about it, why I feel like this is something that's at least, again, we're not going to spend 22 minutes on it, but a quick 6, 7, 8 minutes, whatever. This to me speaks to the John Calipari brand. Because at the end of the day, this is no disrespect, but I don't think this game gets played without John Calipari. But what CBS says is this. is that, you know what? We have a super marquee NFL game on that Thursday. How do we retain the audience? What is the thing that we do to keep the most audience possible on our channel rather than them flipping over to the next game, which is Cowboys Giants? And most people are going to watch Cowboys Giants, so I'm not, whatever. What do? Well, we put on Illinois because the Bears are playing. And what is one of the biggest brands that we can possibly get? There are some really big brands in college basketball: UConn, Kentucky, Carolina, Duke. But John Calipari is a pretty darn big brand in his own right. And I just don't think this game happens without it. But what CBS sees is the opportunity to capture and retain a huge part of that audience. We saw it last year. Fox, they had ironically, the Lions and the Packers on Thanksgiving Day. What did they do right after? Michigan State versus Arizona. I looked it up today just to make sure. Did 5.2 million viewers. People that just stayed to watch Michigan State that were watching the Lions, just wanted to watch college hoops. And so this game will now be played. But again, it's the Calipari effect. And it speaks to, let me also say this. Let me give John Calipari an ounce of credit here, because again, I know anytime you say anything nice about him, oh, he stinks and he's going to blow it in March. Well, the one thing I will say, I am even myself, as a guy who covers this sport, a little bit surprised at how Cal is kind of operating the same way at Arkansas that he did at Kentucky. That's not a knock on Arkansas. It's not a knock on Kentucky. But even going back to that night when he announced that he was leaving, it was stunning. Or he didn't announce it. My buddy Wes Moore broke the story. But when that story came out, I remember thinking like, oh, this is going to be good and it's going to be interesting. But is Cal still going to be able to keep the same interest at Arkansas that he did at Kentucky? Well, so far, so good, because the roster has come together very nicely. First off, I think it's important to note he's still recruiting at an elite level. Boogie Flan, 5-star McDonald's All-American, is following him. Carter Knox, 5-star McDonald's All-American, is following him. Billy Richmond, 4-star, who I believe has NBA upside, is following him. He got several of those key guys from Kentucky to follow him too. Adu Thiero, Big Z, DJ Wagner. And of course, I think maybe the most impressive thing that he did was get John L. Davis from Florida Atlantic, get Jonas Adu from Tennessee, and of course, Trevin Brazil to return for that 9-man rotation. But what that says to me, if a John L. Davis only has 1 year and he can play pretty much anywhere in college basketball and he chooses Calipari, it says the Calipari brand is still strong. And then to take it to another level, for CBS to say, what is the game that we can put on Thanksgiving Day? This isn't, a Saturday in March where they're playing college basketball anyway. This is CBS saying, we want to capture the audience. What can we do? What's different? And it kind of goes back to what we talked about last week when the ACC SEC challenge games were announced. I said, look, I think that ESPN whiffed here because you are reintroduced in late November, early December, when that game will be played against Miami. You're reintroducing your audience to college basketball. A lot of them aren't going to remember that John Calipari is the head coach at Arkansas, that he left Kentucky. And so to put them against Miami on some random game that wouldn't draw what you would if they were playing Duke or Carolina or somebody like that, Louisville even, I thought it was a big whiff by them. I thought it was a big whiff when Kentucky and Arkansas are only playing once. So credit to CBS. They see the light the way that Torres does. They see the value that Calipari will bring. And I'll tell you this, Thanksgiving Day in the Torres house, I might have to go into the corner or the side room because this is going to be a heck of a game. The first marquee game of the Calipari era, I would assume. And I, for one, cannot wait. As I said, they'll also play Miami out of conference. They'll also, of course, play Michigan in the Big Ten or in the Jimmy V Classic in New York as well. But again, people want to see Calipari. People love him. People hate him. But people are certainly interested. And so credit CBS for putting together a heck of a game.